Hari
Hari
Om.
Om.
Good evening to all. Welcome to the next session of Kindle Live, and let's begin this session with prayers.
Om Samasta Jana Kalyani Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Krishna Namaha Hari Om.
So let's begin our session today knowing even more about Maya and the three gunas that it is made up of: the Sattva, the Raja and Tama.
Reading further, we have had so long a discussion of one of the manifestation of Tamarajas impurities called Mala. The other is the agitation of the mind called Vikshepa. By now, these terminology Vikshepa, Avarana, Mala should be more comfortable to you all. From this Vikshepa arises the unmanifest world subconscious. We will explain all this in a while. And from it springs forth the grosser emphasis and assertion of the manifest, the world of the five elements. Five elements, Rajshree, the world of five elements?
Yeah.
Means the world that we see. It arises from Vikshepa. How? It is explained later. The interplay of these elements produces the names and forms, including the senses of knowledge and the senses of action, which together constitute the sad, tearful, ineffectual, mortal, the helpless samsari. Ineffectual means a particular karma or a dharma that is to be performed, a job that has to be performed which is not done well, ineffectual. With this, the fall of man is complete. From being the eternal, immortal, all-full, nitya, shuddha, mukta, paramatma, the pure consciousness, due to the fall, due to the play of Maya. Like Somadatta's father, we too have come to feel our own limitations and live in our unbuilt huts with unmarried wife and unborn son, Somadatta. I am sure you all remember yesterday's story. Everything was created in his mind. And he falls, then he wakes up. Vedanta is not a pessimistic philosophy to leave its conclusions with a mere theory of fall. This very theory has been devised to explain the non-existent dream fall, so that the faithful may be shown a way to wake up and realize their own true eternal nature, the Om.
Yeah, I think it is very necessary here once again to go back a little bit and understand this very clearly, step by step. That now we've understood from the unmanifest, that is the Om, the consciousness, arises the Maya. The Maya is a three gunas: Sattva, Raja and Tama. When Raja and Tama is combined together, it is known as the Malin Maya. So Sattva Maya and Malin Maya, which is Raja and Tama. Now we already know that from Raja comes Vikshepa and from Tama comes Avarana. So keep these things, remind yourself again and again of these things. And Vikshepa has the quality of Raja, and Raja is what? Of action. So from there arises the five elements because they are action oriented. These combine in different proportions and from the unmanifest. This also again I will remind you that whenever something has to be created, first it appears in your mind. That is unmanifest. Once it is actually created, then it becomes the manifestation. So, this Raja or Vikshepa now gives rise to these 5 elements, and they, in different combinations, have created the whole world. So, this you be clear about.
Reading further, all the different religions of the world and all the different yogas in Hinduism, however distinct they might seem to be in their approaches, in one voice insist that man must learn to control his organs of knowledge and action. Self-control without and within. The word without means outside, outside and inside. Self-control without and within is the one point on which all religions sing in melodious agreement.
And what do we call this? What do we have to control? The indriyas, the karmendriya and the jnanendriya. Remember that. Organs of perception and organs of action.
These both need to be controlled, without and within. But this control of the indriyas is not accomplished by a mere violent suppression. Deep in us lie the desires fed by our nescience. Nescience, avidya. Unless this is ended by destroying the very source of it, the avidya, ignorance, we cannot control effectively the sense organs. So long as traces of delusion are in us, we shall have desires rising up in us. They whip the indriyas to roam out among their respective sense objects. With knowledge alone, can we end our ignorance? A question comes. It is beautifully answered. The knowledge of our real nature, the realization of Shivaham, the Shivaham state, the recognition that I am the eternal, the knowledge that I am not this name and form personality, but one homogeneous mass of pure consciousness alone can end our ignorance, avidya. The delusion, bhranti, the source of all the desire eruptions. So it is very clearly indicated now, in clear words, that the source of all our desires, remember, desires are the source of our sadness in life, our worries in life. They all the reason because desires come, and desires come from avidya.
The beautiful example of Somadatta's dream, Somadatta's father's dream rather, that he just had a whiff, a glance of those 2 ladies who had come to fill their water pots, and immediately he created a whole world for himself. So how? And world is created through one desire.
Reading further. But pure knowledge is our eternal swarupa, and so it is not a state that is to be created. We have only to end the clouding, confusing, deluding ignorance. When the clouds move off, the sun, temporarily hidden behind, but ever lit and brilliant, reappears. What an example! What an amazing example! This removal of nescience is effected through listening, reflecting, and meditation. And we have seen how the veiling power of tamas acts upon us, and how each of its strategies is met and defeated by the Vedanta practice of Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana. Gurudev is referring to the chart which we will see at the end. Step by step, we are being guided. First, we are shown what the problem is and where the problem lies. And now, slowly, how to recognize the problem and how to overcome the problem also. Thus, by the time the student reaches the manana state, he gains more and more intellectual understanding about the futility of seeking seeming happiness or any deluding peace in the world of objects. He does not run behind the objects of the world. Slowly now he has come to the Manan stage. He has realized the real happiness does not lie in the objects of the world. Here starts the real control of the sense organs. And when he gains slowly an amount of self-control, the agitation of the mind created by his contact of the world, of sense objects get reduced. This enables him to gain 1,000-fold more joy, peace and tranquility within, and consequently his meditation flights are higher, his intensity of concentration more pointed and firm. Rajshree, your Gurudev is not just pointing out the solution, but he is actually going deep into a sadhaka who has already followed years of sadhana. And he is pointing out that there is a problem sometimes when sadhakas come and say, I have been meditating for years, but I am not progressing. He is telling the cause. The cause is not inside. The cause is your mind that is going outside in the objects has not stopped. So you have to collect your mind, your attention away from the objects of the world to the self. Then the flight will be great. Hand in hand, the team works. The more the avarana is controlled, the more the vikshepa is stilled, the more the tossing and agitations are pacified, the easier the veiling gets rolled off. In course of time, in proportion to the intensity of abhyasa, the twin gruesome manifestation of tamas are both completely controlled. We shall then have sublimated the rajatamas effects called mala in us with the consequent proportionate again of sattva in us.
Gain of sattva.
Beg your pardon, yeah. Gain of sattva in us. The more you go away from this raja and tama, naturally the sattva which is already there starts shining and starts showing. Same example like the clouds moving away and the sun reappearing. As we hear, reflect and meditate upon the Shruti mantras, Shruti scriptures, the disturbance and the muddiness in our mental lake are eliminated. Naturally, the pure sun of knowledge, the eternal truth gets reflected clearly. The clearest and the truest reflection of the truth is the God principle. Therefore, a sadhaka slowly comes to manifest in himself a certain amount of divinity and godliness at this stage.
We have clearly seen now that when there is complete sattva, at that stage, the reflection is much more clearer, or the clearest reflection of what? Of the consciousness. Now Maya comes from the consciousness. So in Maya, when the sattva is maximum, the reflection of the consciousness is the clearest. As raja and tama come, the water gets clouded. We have seen that example of the cow dung muddy water. So that time the reflection is not clear. This is what is said over here.
Let me just say one more word before we move ahead. At this stage, Gurudev is saying that godliness has already reached the sadhaka. He is not saying that he has become Paramatma yet. He has not even said that he has become a sannyasi or a sadhu or something. This is at the stage of studenthood itself, purely because he has only now followed the instruction and taken his mind slowly away from the world outside to the world within. And so much is achieved. We are going to read now what all can be achieved at this stage itself. Miracles are at this stage easy for him. Grace is natural. Kindness becomes his instinct. Love his very breath. Mercy his essence. Truthfulness his trait. Lordliness his birthright. In short, a God-man on earth. He lives, poor or starving, suffering or in health, laughing or weeping, to rule, to guide, and to enlighten. In the previous talks, we had spoken to you about the great stalwarts of our time, Swami Vivekananda, Swami Aurobindo, and the many greats.
We have
Remember
spoken,
what
yes,
all
about so many great people.
the same qualities were spoken about there, the God.
We must have also definitely heard from our parents or grandparents that there have been certain sadhus or mahatmas who do miracles, who they can make things appear, who have such great yogic vidyas that they can make things disappear or appear, and so on. We've also, if all of you have known the story of Sant Jnaneshwara, apparently he and his brothers and sister sat on a wall and they made the wall fly actually to meet another saint. So they had that control over matter also. So these are the kind of miracles it is spoken about when the yogic power comes. But it is advised not to give in to these miracles also.
Just now, Gurudev is going to say the same. At this stage, if he be yet steady in his sadhana and can still maintain his divine urge to know and to become, if he has dispassion enough to reject and renounce even the powers and joys of godhood, he, during the highest flights of his deepest meditation, wafts even beyond the wonderful summit of sattva and becomes trans-sattva or sattvatīta. One who has transcended even the gunas, he experiences in him the truth supreme and becomes that. And having reached Om and merging there with Om, he becomes Om. He gains the Paramam Padam, the final goal of perfection, the bliss absolute. This is why, time and again, Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana has been told by Gurudev. When you do Shravana, all the movements of the mind goes away, the agitation of the minds go away. Then with Manana, the covering of the avidya goes away. When these two are gone, the clarity in your meditation lifts you inside to closer to the self. When you reach closer to the self, you have not reached, you are closer to the self. It is possible that you gain siddhis. But once again Gurudev says, continue to read the Upaniṣads, continue to read the Shastra, be in touch with Sant, be in touch with your own scriptures, so that once again Manana becomes better and your Nididhyasana keeps becoming clearer and clearer till a point where you experience that bliss absolute not as something else, as your own very self. There in him rests all. The universe has risen only from him. In him it exists. Towards him it moves. Into him must it finally enter, and ever afterwards becomes him. The eternal truth absolute. The arrow on the left of the picture, which we are going to see, shows direction of the fall of the man from Om to delusion and the consequent tears. The arrow mark on your right shows the ascent of man from the valley of tears to the state of Satchit Ananda. Thus, without control of the indriyas, Without self-control, no spiritual growth is ever possible. And no control is effective until we start the listening, reflect, meditate schooling. Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. Study the Upanishads. Independently think over them. Meditate regularly. Hand in hand, learn to control your senses. Through a control of desires, intelligently pursue sadhana. Success shall be yours, here and now. That is the guarantee repeatedly given by all scriptures. With patience and faith, serve, love, purify, meditate, realize truth in this very birth. You can is the confident assurance given by all masters to everyone who has approached them for guidance. You can.
Yes, all of us can. Let us now go to the chart and see the chart carefully.
In the soft copy, you can enlarge the photo also. If you see, right on the top is Om, the highest, the purest, the self, the Atman, also known as Brahman. Like Rajshree had reminded you all before, not to mistake it with Brahma Ji. Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara is written there but down below. This chart is very, very important so that our clarity about our own religion comes to us. Om is the supreme. Just below Om comes the power of
Maya.
Maya has how many powers? 2 powers. Avarana and Vikshepa. Right? There are 2 Shaktis. When you see down, it is divided into 3. The Sattva, Raja and Tama. First we see the Sattva aspect. Sattva, unactivity, purest. The God principle, there are 3.
3 principles which we have given them names. That is Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara.
Yeah, Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara. Creator, nourisher and annihilator. When we see them together as one, gurus like Dattatreya. Each of these God principles have their own powers, Shakti, represented as their spouses. Everyone knows the real strength lies.
It is comparable to static energy and kinetic energy. So the force behind the power which is there is known as the consort of the given form that we have given to Brahmaji, Vishnuji and Maheshji, and that comes in the form of Saraswati, Lakshmi and
So Brahmaji is the creator, so knowledge is required. The goddesses of all knowledge is Saraswati Ma. See how beautiful it is. It's perfect.
Combinations perfect, really.
Nourisher, the sustainer, is Vishnu Bhagwan. So his wife or spouse is Lakshmi Ma. Remember, Lakshmi does not only represent wealth, it represents wealth as well as prosperity. So the entire beauty of the world, all the fruits, all the vegetables of the world is prosperity. Is all related to Ma Lakshmi. And Maheshwara, Shiv Bhagwan, his power is the destruction so that positive reconstruction can take place again. Therefore, what will he destroy? The Prakriti, that which is taken birth. And that is represented by Uma or Parvati. This is the Sattva aspect. Now, the Raja. It's very important that you follow this. Raja, the activity. Tossing power means agitation. It is named as Vikshepa. If you go straight down, the unmanifest, which is not yet manifested outside. It is still inside. All the agitation is inside. Then these manifest where? In the two organs. One is the organ of action and the other one is perception. Starting with perception, sound, light, sound, smell, taste and touch. The pancha karma indriya. Shabda, sparsha, rupa, rasa, gandha. This is received from the world. Organs of perception receive the stimuli from the outer world to inside. And how do we react? How does we react? From the organs of action. The hand, feet, speech, the genital organs as well as the evacuation. This is how we respond to the world. Isn't it, Rajshree?
So organs of perception are the Jnanendriyas and the organs of action are the Karmendriyas. Okay.
As Gurudev said, on the left hand side is the descent. We are supposed to be Om, the purest. But what are we right now? The sad, the dull, the malina, samsarin. Why? Because we in our own brain, like Somdatta's father, we create so many worlds and then the world comes crashing down.
Let us see the final.
But how Gurudev has said, how we can reach back to our glory? The ascent of man. Come on to the other part, the tamas activity. So veiling, the tamas is veiling power. When you come down, this is the main issue of our life. I don't know, negativity number one. How it can be taken care? By listening to Shastra.
When you don't know something, you listen to what it is, then you will come to know.
But the right inquiry is necessary. If I am sad and I blame everything on Rajshree, then that's a problem. I should actually understand why I am sad. And that reality is shown by the scriptures. The second, I can't understand something. If I don't understand something, I leave it. No, that is not human.
Because by nature we are curious, we want to know.
Yeah. By birth we are humans. By nature we are supposed to be inquisitive. We are supposed to ask why, how to. I want to know the truth behind this. And that can be by reflecting on what you have heard. Manana. Finally, to really experience it. When you say, I don't have the experience of God, how can you have? How can we have experience of the God? We are running about in the world. We are taking the experiences only of the world. Therefore, meditate, meditate, meditate. Nididhyasa. When we take this route backwards, we reach, transcend Maya and become one with the Creator or with the Creator's Creator or to that Atman or to your own very reality.
So our journey or our sadhana does not stop where we get powers or we can perform miracles, but it has to cross over not only Raja and Tama but also Sattva in order to get or reach the state of consciousness which we are. So this ends our chapter number 26, such an incredibly beautiful chapter. And tomorrow we start with the other techniques. Remember that we had to learn the techniques. Yes.
Tomorrow is our discussion day.
Tomorrow is Saturday. We meet at the same time for a regular discussion. Please send in your questions if there are any. Or we will discuss some interesting theories tomorrow. And see you tomorrow. Let's end this session with...
We really pray that you all are also gaining more than us what we are by gaining, reading this to you all, reflecting on this. We really pray to Gurudev that you all gain much more than what we are gaining. Asito ma satkamaya tamso ma ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मामृतं गमय ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ
Hari Om.